Okay, oh my God, I'm so excited. Okay, so beginning astrology. So first of all, we have to learn the basic language of astrology. Okay, so what I did was I put on the board was I put the 12 signs. And most of them are here also. What I want to do is, do you guys have your charts?
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm going to be doing this on Tuesdays, because they have class Tuesday, Thursday. So on Tuesday afternoons, we're going to start doing this. If you give me your information, I'll print you your chart.
Okay.
So that way you have it. Okay, so take out your chart, and just today what we'll do is we'll use the ones that Sarah, I didn't bring mine, it's downstairs. So these are the signs. And then there's a few extra glyphs that are gonna be on here, and I'm gonna, okay. And then these are the planets. And I'll write those in a second. Let me borrow your chart, Tricia. Okay. So first of all, this is what the astrology chart looks like. Have you seen yours?
Yeah, a friend of
Okay.
mine did it.
Okay. So what happens is that the time of your birth determines where all the planets are going to lie. And there's houses, and we're going to talk about the houses. So first we have to get the basic language, okay? So there's 12 houses, and I'm going to tell you what each of the houses mean, okay? So we'll talk about that in a minute. But basically, the day that you're born, the time that you're born, and the place that you're born determines exactly the placement of your chart. It is believed that astrology is your soul's purpose in this lifetime to learn the greatest lessons, okay? So that's exactly why all of the placements of where your planets are matter. And that's why time is super, super important. And I'm going to go through all of these with you, and I'm going to write the planets, and I'll tell you about the houses. That's like the basic language we need to know before we start anything. So what I'd like for you guys to do by next Tuesday is learn the 12 glyphs of the planets and of the signs. Because when I write them on the board, that's how we're going to be communicating. Plus, that's how you're going to learn how to read the chart. Okay? So we're going to go through these in a minute. Let me write the planets. So this is Aries. If you see Aries, it looks like horns, okay? The glyph actually tells you a bit about what the sign represents. Aries is the first sign of the zodiac, and it's exactly that. It rules the head, and it like pushes through. They're very stubborn. They're very, very stubborn. It's a little different than Taurus. Taurus, you see, has a circle and has the horns also. The circle, anytime you see circle, represents spirit. Anytime you see horns, represents matter. Every single thing in the spiritual world has to do with spirit and matter. The entire lifetime that you are living is to learn one thing: how to balance spirit with matter. What does spirit versus matter mean? What comes to mind when I say you're here to learn how to balance spirit and matter?
Without one or the other, you're not really,
Without one or the other, you're not really what?
like,
Complete, balanced.
Okay, you're not balanced and you're not complete, absolutely. What's the story of Jesus?
he came from the Virgin Mary, and he brought, like, his journey was to speak about his father and how he
But what was his story? What is actually Jesus' story?
he died for our sins.
Okay, he died for our sins, but tell me when he was alive. What do we call him? The Messiah, the Son of Man, okay? He's God in earth form. Every single one of us living is God in earth form. That's what this means. We are a balance of spirit, the God that lives within, and this is the human or the person, the matter. every single thing in our life boils down to this lesson. That's why Jesus is such a huge teacher. Buddha, same story. What was Buddha's story? I've told you guys this before.
Wasn't he reached enlightenment?
He reached enlightenment, but right before he reached enlightenment, what was he doing? Do you remember where he came from? The story of his parents? Okay, Buddha was filthy, filthy rich. His father was very, very wealthy. And he locked him up basically in the palace and never wanted him to experience any demise, any difficulty. But one day, Buddha snuck out. And he saw a dead person. He saw someone in the street suffering that was dying of hunger. And he escaped in the middle of the night. He left his wife and his kid at the palace. And he said, I need to go become the Buddha. So he snuck out and he started looking for teachers and he started, this journey of enlightenment and spirituality. And it got to a point that he was not eating. He was not eating anything. And he realized that if he did not feed his body, he was going to die. That meant that he never gave attention to the matter. Okay, he was only feeding his spirit. So he had a bowl, and he asked the lady down the road for some rice. And he ate the rice out of the rice bowl. And then once he ate the rice out of the rice bowl, that's when he reached enlightenment after he sat under the Bodhi tree. So we cannot neglect our spirit, but we cannot neglect our matter either. And that is the biggest, most important spiritual lesson that we have to learn. And that's why Jesus and Buddha are our biggest teachers. Are you leaving? Okay. Oh, I'm recording, so you can watch it on the channel. Okay, I'll see you guys there. So that's basically what we're learning over and over and over again when we're dealing with astrology, is how do we balance matter and spirit? Nobody is balanced. And we're going to see today how to do the elements so that we can see how unbalanced we are. And these are like the basic building blocks of astrology. So if we know these, we can learn every single thing else. Okay? So Taurus has the spirit and has matter. And the sign of Taurus has to do with what? Tauruses care about one thing.
It's a bull, right?
Okay, it's a bull. They are very clunky for the most part. They tend to be very, big and bulky, not necessarily physically, although that could be their personality is like bullheaded, but it has to do with matter, with material. The number one sign that has to do with finances is Taurus. All money signs are earth. Earth signs all equal money. So that's Taurus, Virgo, and Capricorn. But the number one is Taurus. So these words that I'm telling you are key words that when you meet a person, this is like the essence of the person. Aries is the baby of the zodiac. They're the head. They're the leader. They have impulse. They don't think about the body. They think about the head. Okay? Taurus rules the skin and rules the throat. The throat, just so you know, is about control. So people that have thyroid problems or throat issues are having inner control issues. Okay? And the entire zodiac is the body, from the head all the way to the feet. So you're going to see every part of the body represented in the zodiac. So if something is happening in the chart, you know that it can affect that person physically. Like I now have the moon that's represented by Cancer, the breast. I have a very hard aspect in my chart. So it makes sense that I got breast cancer again. The first time wasn't as clear. The second time was clear as day. So every single thing, once you know these building blocks, you can see everything in the chart about the person down to what illness they can get. It's a fascinating study. It is the most amazing study of self that's ever been created. It's phenomenal. And you can study yourself for your entire life on just your chart. And this chart is your natal chart. This never changes. Then we have other charts that are transits and progress charts. That's like what's going on today and what's going on in the future, and you can look and see. So you can know what's going on with yourself until the day you die. It's an absolutely phenomenal study. But just this alone, you can spend your whole life just studying your natal chart. Okay? This is Gemini. And why do you think it has two lines?
They're bipolar.
Two-faced.
They're two-faced, they're bipolar, what most people assume. It's because of duality. This is one of the most important signs in the entire zodiac. Okay, and I'm going to show you in a minute what planets correlate. But the planet Mercury is the planet of Gemini. And what we know about the Earth, what do we know for sure about the earthly realm, is that every single thing is dual. If you take out a coin on one side, and then there's another side. So Geminis can be two-faced, but what we're talking about is because Gemini exists, because Mercury exists, and Mercury is the planet that's closest to the sun. Every single person has the sun right next to Mercury. And this is very, very important reason. The reason is that Mercury is a mask. Every single one of us is dual. So when we criticize people about being two-faced or insecure, we're talking about ourselves. Every single one of us that has an earthly body is dual. And what are our two parts? It's on the board. Spirit and matter. We are all dual. If you are in a body, you are dual. So this morning when I had my client, her husband is dead. He walks in the room, I feel him, and I'm like, oh, your husband's here. And he says something and she says, oh, that's weird, that doesn't sound like him. And my first thing is because he's out of the body. He's released the ego. Once we lose the body, we lose that ego, and then we're able to see beyond as a spirit. So he's no longer dual. Once we drop the body, once we drop the flesh, we stop being dual. Okay? So the moment we have the body, we are dual. Gemini is going to turn out to be one of the most important signs. When we start doing myths and stories later on, it's going to be one of the most important signs that we experience.
What
It's
part of the body
fascinating.
is,
It's the arms, the extremities, and it also has to do with the lungs, with breathing. Good question. The next is Cancer. And so this is like the crab. Cancer rules the breasts, and it has to do with the mother, and it has to do with the moon. So let me just put it here. Aries is Mars. Taurus is Venus. Gemini is Mercury. Now you see, Mercury includes, actually, sorry. This is matter. And this is the connection. So you have spirit, matter, connection. Here you have Gemini has all, has the cross of matter, the circle of spirit, and then the connection to both. Okay? That's Mercury. Cancer is the moon. This is Leo. Leos are narcissists. Leo ruled by the sun. So people that are Leo thinks that the world revolves around them. So wherever we have the sun is where we tend to be narcissistic. Okay? And that's the sector of our chart where we're most going to try to shine. So whose is this? This is Trisha's. Oh, okay, I'll give it to her the other day. she has the 6th house. So you see the sun is in the 6th house. Her sun is in the 6th. Where's yours? Her sun is in the 6th. So wherever you have the sun, that's where going to be where you're going to try to shine the most. It's going to be the sector, because the houses are like the sectors of your life. We'll go through them, where you're going to shine the most. That is going to be a very, very important part of where you thrive, or where you should put a lot of your energy, because that's the sun. It's where you shine the brightest. So you said you have it in the 7th?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so that's marriage, relationships, friends. Very important. It's like being a Libra, okay? The house where your sun is, it's like you have a taste of that sign. Okay, do you know your time?
Yeah,
What time are you born?
5:48 p.m.
5:48 p.m., so you're probably a 6th house sun. Probably, because that's around 6, 7, maybe a 5th house sun, but we'll check. Just leave it for me so I can run the chart for you. Okay, and you can go to Astrolab with an E, astrolabe.com, and put in your chart. If you want to do that now, you can do that so you have it on your phone. That's what they are doing.
Okay.
So wherever you have your sun, it's like you get a taste of that sign. So I'm a 4th house sun. I'm a Pisces, born on the 14th. But because I'm a 4th house sun, I have the taste of Cancer. Because the 4th house is Cancer. I'll tell you that. in a minute.
I have the sun like stuck with one of the signs, I think.
Okay, so you have it in the 10th. Okay, so that's like being a Capricorn, which happens to be that you're a Capricorn, so you're like a double Capricorn. You're not going to have any problem finding a job. You're not going to have any problem being successful professionally. A 10th house sun that's a double Capricorn will never have problems with success. So, to your mom.
See, why am I always like scared though? Like
What was that?
I'm always scared. Like I fear that I won't have a job. or
Because
it's-
Capricorn, one of the things about Capricorns is they're very fearful. They're very, very melancholic, they're depressed, they're fearful. Every sign has positives and every sign has negatives, okay? I'm going to bring you a list of keywords. I think I gave those to you already in class, but I'll bring them on Tuesday, of keywords so you can see the positive words and the negative words. Because why? What are we?
Dual.
Because we're dual. Dual means everything has a light, has a dark, a positive, a negative. Everything in the earthly world, every single thing is dual. Every single person, dual. So, just to pick on you for a moment with your mom, if your mom says she's the devil, she's an angel. Your mom says she's an angel, she's a devil.
Yeah. She's a
Both
Taurus.
things. She's a Taurus? Oh, okay. So you've got a stubborn one between Capricorn and Taurus? No
Oh
wonder.
yeah.
Okay. So Cancer rules the breast. It's the maternal instinct. It's the person that has the maternal instinct. So if you're a 4th house sun like me, you're going to say you're Pisces, but you have a Cancer tinge. That person now becomes very Cancerian. So I'm very Cancer and I'm very Pisces. And then on top of that, I have a moon in Cancer. I'm very Cancer. So what house are you?
5.
The 5th, okay.
I was reading my friend's chart and she did it.
Okay, so you're the 5th house sun. That means you have a tinge of Leo.
Leo.
She has a tinge of Libra, because I'm going to give you the houses in a minute, and Paula has a tinge of Capricorn. Now she happens to be a Capricorn, so it makes it another layer of Capricorn, very Capricornian. Okay, but you have a taste of Leo. So things that represent Leo, things that, you know, the sun or fun, or being, you know, narcissistic or self-centered or things like that can be issues that you come to work through. So I have to heal a lot of my Cancerian parts. The mother part, we were just talking about custody battles and things like that, and I had that years back with my kids. The themes are going to show up from your sun and the house that you that you have your sun in, okay? So this is Leo, this is the glyph for Leo, and it's ruled by the sun.
And
This
what
is
part?
Virgo.
Sorry, what part of the body is Leo?
Leo is the heart. This is Virgo. This stands for MP. And don't confuse it with Scorpio. That's the M with the arrow. They look similar, but they're very different. MP stands for Materia Prima. Okay? It's basically like a lot of land that's barren, that has not had anything planted on it. That's why in Christianity, they gave Jesus' mother to be the Virgin Mary. Virgo is virgin. It's like virgin land. So what they did was they took the sign of the mother, the example of the mother, and they made her a virgin. That's a lie. That is not a true story. Okay? She had to have sex just like everybody else, because what happens if you would tell your parents that you have a virgin kid? Are they going to believe you? No. Okay? But the Christians took it, the men, the patriarchy, took that story and they made it the Virgin Mary, because what they wanted to do was suppress the feminine part of the woman, the sexual part of the woman. Okay? So they made her a virgin. Now, when we start doing the stories, the myths, one of the things you're going to learn about the Virgo, the story that's related to her, anybody see Wonder Woman?
No.
Okay, I highly recommend you watch the movie. At the beginning of the movie, there's an island. It's the island of the Amazons. It's like Wonder Woman when, well, I was little. I used to watch it. Maybe you did too, with Linda Carter. But that whole story is about how she didn't have sex. She wore a chastity belt, and how her baby, her daughter, was made from the land. So just like with Adam and Eve, how Eve was made from the rib. All of those stories are to indicate virginity. And it's smack in the middle of the zodiac. This is sign number 6, and there's 12. So the first half, and then the second half. And right smack in the middle of the zodiac, we're talking about virgin land. So the Christians used that story and created the whole birth of Jesus around. Okay? So Virgo and Virgos tend to have a very virginal way of being, very prude. So if you're a 6th house sun, like Trisha, she's going to have a little bit of Virgo associated with her sun. So she is a Capricorn, but she has a layer of Virgo. So there's going to be a lot of earth, because Virgo and Capricorn are both earth signs. And there's going to be a lot of to do with some virginity or Virgo, or being prude or being nice and putting on that facet. Virgo also stands for the animals. That's why Jesus was born in a manger. That is not an accident. Jesus was born in a manger because Virgo has to do with the animals. So the God had to be born with the animals. Okay? And it also has to do with work. Because if the land has nothing on it, you have to work the land. Okay? And you'll see more of that when we do the houses. This is Libra. What does that look like? Libra.
It's like a speed bump.
It's supposed to be the scales. It is the only sign in the zodiac that's not represented by an animal or a person. All the other ones are animals. Oh, here's Virgo. The planet for Virgo is Chiron. That's on the poster over there. And the planet for Libra is Venus. Now you see 2 Venuses. You see this one that's Taurus, and you see this one that's Libra. They're the same glyph, right? They're the same symbol. You see that Venus is Venus. but they mean different things. The Taurus Venus has to do with the material. Anything that has to do with Venus has to do with money, with material goods. It's the circle of spirit over the cross of matter. The Libra Venus has to do with pleasures, has to do with aesthetics, has to do with beauty, has to do with marriage. There's two Venuses. The Taurus Venus is always money, and the Libra Venus is always love, or pleasures, or beauty. So Taurus people are very different than Libra people, even though they have the same planet that rules them. And before you ask, Virgo is the intestines. And Libra rules the kidneys. So one of the things you'll see is that the people, like Miss Rapace is a Virgo, the intestines have to be affected if there's a physical issue. My daughter is a Libra, and she used to get not kidney infections, but like urinary tract infections, and when she was little, she had enuresis. She would urinate in the bed. So you see that the sign can tell you what physical ailments people have, because that part of the body is weak when it's out of balance. So this is Scorpio. Now, why do you think it's that symbol? What does that look like? Yes, and what does that look like? The arrow, but it's
You.
it's like a stab or a stinger. Scorpios sting. Scorpios are selfish. Scorpios are self-centered. They're also narcissistic. They're very spiritual. They're very esoteric. They're very transformative. But they're all about them. Of the water signs, when you learn the elements in a minute, of the water signs, they're the strongest water sign. Normally, water signs we're very weak. But Scorpios are very strong. Now, those are overgeneralizations. Obviously, Norma's a Leo, has a Leo tinge because her sun is in the 5th. That doesn't mean that you're a weak person, just we have a Pisces underlie. Okay, and then you layer that on top of it. So of course there has to be some strength because of the Leo, because Leo is a strong sign. But the underlying element of water is what represents us. And water has to do with intuition, has to do with emotion, so there's a weakness, so to speak, there, versus, let's say, the fire of Leo. So what helps is the fact that you're a 5th house sun, because it makes your water heated up, boiled up, so you have to have some temperament to you. And that's how we layer what everything means. So Scorpio rules the reproductive organs, and Scorpio is the most sexual sign in the zodiac. The second sexual sign in the zodiac is Aries. And the reason that Scorpio and Aries are the most sexual sign is because back in the old days, before Pluto, so this is Pluto, Pluto rules Scorpio. Before they found the planet Pluto in the sky, Scorpio used to be ruled by Mars also. And Mars is the sexual symbol. It's the man, and that's the penis. So Aries and Scorpio are the most sexual. So if somebody has, and this is a true story that happened to me, if somebody has Mars in Scorpio, and that person tells you that they are not sexual, that is a lie. So I was doing a reading for a woman many, many years ago, and her boyfriend had this. And she's like, oh no, he's not sexual. I said, honey, he may not be doing it with you, but he's doing it with someone. So this is how we layer one on top of the other. But it is impossible to have those traits and not manifest it. Now, you might just be out of balance, and there could be a sexual dysfunction, but in the mind, that person, so here, this mind, the horn of the glyphs, like in, here it is, of Taurus or of Mercury, the mental energy is letting you know that mentally there is energy that's